If anybody could take a movie named Ant-Man and make it cool, it would be Marvel. And somehow, it's exactly what they did.
When your small energies compress, so you have the force of a 200-pound man behind a fist 1/100th of an inch wide, you're like a bullet. You punch too hard, you kill someone, too soft, it's a love tap. In other words, you have to know how to punch.
I was in prison for 3 years. I know how to punch.
Show me. Terrible.
You want to show me how to punch? Show me.
That's how you punch.
It's a movie that in its very name just seems incredibly cheesy, and lots of folks took one look at the previews and went, I don't know. Well, it turns out there's all sorts of pleasant surprises in Ant-Man, and that's what we're talking about this week on Reviews for the Rest of Us. How is it? Where should you see it? And who should you see it with? Ant-Man is the story of a guy who's kind of lost in life, doesn't know what his next steps are, and happens to cross paths with a brilliant scientist who created an incredible invention, something that can actually make big things tiny, but who actually buried the invention because of his fear of what it could mean for the world, but has the ability to keep it hidden, taken away when his prodigy goes completely rogue. So this is a movie full of action, full of adventure, special effects, science fiction, romance, comedy, the whole nine yards. In other words, a typical Marvel movie in that aspect. And that is what's impressive. So how is it? This movie is surprisingly good, so much better than you could imagine. If you're like me, saw the trailers and was like, oh my goodness, are you kidding me? You're gonna be surprised. In fact, they even poke fun at that in this movie. That's one of the hilarious things. They make fun of how cheesy the name really is. But because it's Marvel involved and because they seem to have this unbelievable magic that they work on movies, out the other end comes a really smart, pretty funny, and surprisingly great movie. And as a quick aside, Paul Rudd makes this movie. They had to have spent a lot of work figuring out who they wanted to be Ant-Man because they could have gone really bad, really south quickly. But they picked Paul Rudd, and he was a brilliant choice. Michael Douglas is awesome in this movie too. He's crazy as Dr. Pym. Just really great role and all that stuff, and all the other characters involved. Michael Pena, he's hilarious. You'll see if you see this movie. So should you see it in the theater? Absolutely. This is a special effects movie from almost start to finish. There's some breaks, but there's a lot of really cool special effects. This is an experience at movie, from the sound to the video. Actually got to see it in 3D this week too, and I would strongly recommend it in 3D. It's really cool. And who should you see it with? Well, it's a typical Marvel movie, meaning there's the action violence and there's a little bit of foul language. They dial it back to keep it PG-13, but probably not something you'd want a lot of younger kids repeating, but middle schoolers on up, you're great. If you got anybody in your life who loves these kind of movies for dates, you're gonna love it. It's a great fit for that.
In the right hands, the relationship between man and suit is symbiotic. The suit has power. The man harnesses that power. You need to be skillful, agile, and above all, you need to be fast. You should be able to shrink and grow on a dime, so your size always suits your needs. Now dive through the keyhole, Scott. You charge big, you dive small, then you emerge big.
I hope you enjoyed this review. The greatest compliment you can give us is like us on Facebook and subscribe on YouTube and tell your friends about us. And hey, if you're not in the mood for a Marvel character and you're in the mood for a little fun, little family fun, be sure to check out our review of Minions, which is super cute and great for the entire family. You can click right here to see that. And we'll see you next week when we review the movie about 80s video games come to life, but not in a good way. Pixels is next week on reviewsfortherestofus.com. Reviews for movie fans by movie fans.